This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, great friends. So thank you for joining this webinar from whichever part of the world. So greetings for the day. Somebody maybe is early morning if you are from the US and Canada region. Somebody maybe still afternoon if you are in the Europe and other region. And good evening to all my friends here in India. So today's topic I want to discuss about the change management and especially the VUCA world. What does this VUCA stand for? And especially the current situation, the COVID-19, or you can call the coronavirus. And we're going to see how change management is important in today's time. So this is the topic I have picked up for this particular webinar. And in this next 1 hour time, I'm going to discuss, the framework for change management, some of the critical success factor which you need to consider, some of the barriers of the change, and we're going to discuss a lot more about the change management. Of course, it's not the complete change implementation process, but this webinar will give you a good idea about how to change the different aspect of human, the processes, the culture in the today's environment, and how to be remain relevant for the world, how to survive the this particular phase. So this is what we're going to cover in a nutshell. So let's get started with this particular webinar session. The very first thing we will discuss is about the VUCA itself. What does this VUCA stand for? Of course, VUCA, V stand for the volatility. How much is the volatile is the current situation or the current environment in which we operate as in personal life as well as organization which we are operating. So volatile basically means the speed of change. If you are aware, friends, uh, there's so many changes happening so frequently around us because of the current situation, and sometimes it is difficult to track what changes coming from where and in which you need to operate. Okay, I will give lots of example of this change, and one quick change which comes to my mind that when I'm talking to some of my old participant who have completed some of the training with me, when they're filing their application, the program management, portfolio management application, PMI has introduced a taxes. Now, earlier the exam fees for the PMI member for PGMP was $800. But some of my participants whose audit process got completed and they want to now make the payment for the exam and start their panel review process, and suddenly they got suddenly they saw that additional $144 has been charged to them over and above the $800. And when these professional wrote to the PMI and they said that we have introduced taxes, okay, there was not much clarity whether these taxes were only for the PGMP, program management professional exam, was that also for the PMP exam, or for what other certification they have. But yes, we could see so many changes happening around us, and you may have maybe facing these changes, the frequency of the changes. Volatility means the frequency of changes happening so very quickly, and we need to adapt to these changes. We need to see how in current environment what is the best solution which we have, and how should we operate. And this is what we discuss, and how change and change management play important role in this volatile world. Yeah. Uncertainty, the U stand for uncertainty. Uncertainty basically, again, a lack of predictability. You are doing your project, everything is going fine, but you don't know whether what will happen. There's so much of uncertainty around us. You don't know itself whether this lockdown will get over maybe next couple of days or couple of weeks, or it may further get extended. And many part of the world, there already have been announced that it may extend till end of May, maybe in even in month of June. So there is uncertainty around us because of the environment, and we need to operate in this uncertainty. We need to embrace this sometimes this uncertainty, or we need to accept this uncertainty and define our rules, define our processes by which we can survive as an professional or as an organization as well. So we'll discuss about the how change management operate in this volatile, uncertain, and the complexity. C stand for complexity. Complexity basically means the multiplexes of the forces. Change doesn't operate in if you change a process, it has impact on the other system as well. It has impact on the human, it has impact on the your customers. So when you're making this, because the factor for change is not, change doesn't exist in a silos. We will talk about the entire system which needs to reviewed, needs to be analyzed when we make changes. So the environment is so complex, there are so many interfaces around us, and we need to understand these interfaces, the complexities, and then we need to make changes in the into our projects or into our program or into our day-to-day operations as well. So let us we will understand the very complex environment in which we operate today, and what is the impact of this complexity on the change management. We will try to assess the complexity factor as well. A stand for ambiguity. What ambiguity basically means, we trying to communicate but whether it will be interpreted correctly, whether it will be understood correctly. So in today's world, we need to ensure that our stakeholders understand the change correctly, and they interpret the change correctly, and they support the change. So you need to use the right words, you need to use the right the pitch, the tone. Sometimes that also creates ambiguity. You may have a different intention, it may be interpreted something differently. So it's a very difficult world in today's time when somebody asking you some progress, some report, and you may be responding with certain messages, but how the person interpret it, so ensure that your communication is very clear, it doesn't have vague information, and it is and you try to uh, take the feedback and ensure that the recipient of the communication understand what you want him to take from the particular information. So we'll talk about the ambiguity of the happening around us because of our communication with our stakeholders, with our internal team member, with our management, and how to uh, how this change management support this ambiguous environment as well. So VUCA stand for volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity. And in this factor, how we make changes and sustain our business and sustain as a professional and grow as a professional, that is what we will have has a responsibility now. And we'll talk about some of the processes which will help us achieving the objectives. Yeah, so let's continue. Now first let's understand what is change. Yeah, what is change? Change is an act of transformation in response to need. Okay, so change is a transformation, you need to transform yourself. Okay, things are happening and you can't operate the same way you were operating in the past. The environment is different, the environment is the VUCA environment. The so much of frequency of changes, you can't uncertainty of changes, you can't predict what going to happen in future. There's so much of uncertainty around us. So in this VUCA environment, you need to transform yourself and your organization. So what is change? Change is a transformation in response to a need. Okay, now what is the need? Let us understand what is the need and why we need to transform. Yeah, now need is a problem or an opportunity to be addressed. Yeah, and because of this problem and opportunity, we need to transform ourselves. Either it's a problem in current environment, for somebody it is a problem current situation, There's so many opportunity also exist in the current situation. So what transformation we need, what change we need, so that we can maximize the opportunity, and we can minimize, or we can avoid the problems and the negative threats. That is what is the need of the hours. And in today's world, especially in the current social condition, where we have social distancing, where we can't meet people personally, where we can't go to the office, where we can't meet our vendors, where we can't meet our sponsors, and so on. So in this particular environment, if this is all the problem, then what change we need to make, what transformation we need to make, so that the organization survive, so that we survive in our organization and we remain relevant for the organization. So that is what is a need is a basically a problem or an opportunity that to be addressed. And you need to identify and you need to understand this need of your organization in today's time. Okay. And you need to come up with the transformation, you need to come up with the change, and ensure that the organization able to achieve its goals and objective. Let me give you some example of need. Imagine in today's world, one of the need could be, I want to get PMP or PGMP or PFMP certified. I want to be certified in. There's many of my participants who have attended my past batch, the program management batch, the portfolio management batch. They want to get certified now. They are ready. They are ready with the preparation. They want to give exam. But can, because in the current world, of course, for some of the things we have a solution. Like for a PMP, we have a solution now. We can go and give exam online mode. But still, for the PGMP and the PFMP certification, PMI has still not opened the the virtual exam as well. Virtual means the online proctored exam. It's only applicable for PMI ACP, CAPM, and the PMP certification, but not for the other certification of PMI. So my need is, I want to give the exam. I'm ready, but that is what, because of this thing, PMI is also transforming itself, which was not happening so fast. Probably they may be already having this in a plan, that all the certification will be going in online mode, but because of this current situation, that is a solution. Okay, that is a solution for this particular need, that all the exams should be an online mode. The second example here is, consider I want to learn agile framework during this quarantine time, or maybe work from home time, or maybe lockdown situation. Now, if I want to learn, if you have seen before this lockdown, before this coronavirus, some of these agile institutes or the agile framework, like Scaled Agile, like the Scrum Alliance, like the Scrum.org, they were very adamant, they were very rigid. They said, agile cannot be taught into a classroom environment. I have also explored earlier, but it was a rule, it was a ground rule, that we can't conclude, or we can't take such kind of training into an virtual world, where whether the value will not be achieved if we conduct such training in an online world. But you may have all seen, in today's all of these agile training, people are doing the safe certification, the certified scrum master, the professional scrum master. All of these bodies has transformed themselves, and they have said that, okay, we feel that it is a need, it is a, in today's time it is a need, and we will transform ourselves. We will also allow to professional to take the agile learning in an online mode as well. Okay. uh, so this is what also is the one of the need, that it was already there in the past also, but because of the current environment, people have transformed themselves, so they have changed themselves. So what is change means transformation, which was not happening earlier, and because of the current situation, people have gone into the online delivery approach as well. Let's take the third example. I want to run and sustain my business during the lockdown, and now this is the current need. This is the current need. This is the current problem. Need is a problem or an opportunity. Now your business is which was earlier some of the organization, some of the the management team, which was very strict that everybody has to come to the office, and there's no way people can deliver value from the home or something like that. But in today's world, the leadership change is also must, because uh, you can't force people to come to office and work from office. You have to follow the regulation, you have to follow the guidelines from the government. And of course, even if there is no guidelines, people need to identify, can the work be done from home, can the, or maybe some other way. So that's what is the need. In today's situation, I have a business, what job I can do, what I can I do the similar job from home also, or whatever it is. Of course, for some of the product based companies, it may not be possible to maybe especially the manufacturing companies, and which is completely locked down, unless you don't visit your facility, your plant, or your manufacturing center. You may not able to work from home, because that's the environment of that particular business. But then identify what is the solution to it. Okay, so we'll talk about the various solution, and we already have seen some of the solution. Especially the service based industry has already has started working from home. They are able to realize the value, and I have seen that people have already started thinking that only 20 to 25% of the manpower will work from the office now, because they see that people working from home is delivering the same value. Okay, it's not that they have to come to the office. What is more important is what value they deliver for the organization. Okay, from whichever location it is. And because of this situation, organization has already started thinking that how to cut down their expenses, especially the overhead means the facility, or maybe the other the admin, like your coffee vending machine, your coffee cost, your the printing cost, or maybe the security cost around the office. So because from the work from home environment, that infrastructure cost, that overhead cost have been can drastically be reduced. So that is what also organization has to start changing themselves. And this current situation has given them lots of lesson learned, by a hard mean, not by by choice, but by forcefully. They have to operate in such in this particular environment. So and now they have to take this lesson learned, they have to learn from this particular environment, and see that how this can continue going forward, and how they can add more value from the resources. Maybe the technology changing, because of there's so much of collaboration tools, there much so much of things happening, technology changing to support the work from home environment, and so on. So these are the some of the examples. And we have already discussed a solution, that if you want to give the PMP exam, then PMI has going PMP exam in online mode. Okay, which was not the case before the COVID-19, and they did it so very fast. From 14th of April onward, the PMP exam is allowed to to give in online mode. So that's the solution. If there is a problem, you have to transform, you have to make the changes quickly. Okay, we will discuss whether is the organization ready to make changes quickly. That is the process we will discuss more detail. Of course, you have seen, if agile learning, not because of the current COVID-19 environmental factor, or maybe social environmental factor, but there was always a need that people wanted to learn this framework in an online mode as well. But these organizations like Scaled Agile, Scrum Alliance, uh, probably they may having in a mind that they will go digital world of training and the certification and so on. Of course, certification was always an online proctored exam only, or online exam only, but the training was very much essential in a classroom mode itself. Now because of this thing, they have thought that if they wait for the this current situation to get to solve, or the before we have that current problem get settled, until then, and that's an uncertainty. Nobody knows how long it will take for business to come normal or business as usual. And until then, what surviving, how to survive the such infrastructure, such large network. So they decided to transform themselves and start the delivery. And of course people are working to optimize the better value from this particular solution, which may be online solution. See, I may agree that sometimes the classroom session may be more productive, but in today's environment, you can't expect that everything will be in a co-located environment. There is a virtual world exists. There are a need exists. There is a opportunity exists. Where we can cater them mostly through the virtual mode itself. So that's a solution that can you have a solution which can be. And this is basically, I have taken example of the learning and development organization or the training organization, but you need to identify in your current organization what is the solution for the current problem. You need to identify the solution. And of course it may be an incremental solution, may not be the foolproof solution, and may not be the long lasting solution, but you need a solution, because there is an uncertainty, there is an volatility, the changes happening too very fast, the uncertainty is too much, and we don't know how long the things will back to normal. So what is the solution you have until things become back to normal? And even if when things are back to normal, you need to keep identifying changes to deliver more value to the organization. Yeah. So work from home is the way of working. In today's time, the solution for many of the organization, the only solution to current environment, the current VUCA environment, is the work from home. And you have seen there are organizations who are able to deliver much more value than the cost has gone down and the productivity remains same, and people are willing to put extra even few more hours because they have no traveling time, they have so they can work from the the convenient and so on. So that's a solution, and you need to identify solution for your problem. What is your problem, what is your opportunity you have. So identify a solution for it and implement the solution by transforming organization. So there is a need, identify a solution for the need, and transform yourself, transform your organization. Transform basically means change yourself, change the way you work, change the way the organization work, change the way the processes work. Okay. So transform the individual, transform the processes, transform the culture, and in the entire organization, to ensure that you uh, able to still deliver value for the organization, you still able to achieve the organization vision, the organization goals and objective. You can't say, oh, we had a Q2 target, we had a maybe we are into April month, which is mostly the Q2 started from the April for most part of the for the world. In India, of course, April is the Q1. In India, we are into Q1. We have a Q1 target. Now, should we give up? Should we say we can't achieve the Q1 target because of the current situation? That's not the we should, as a professional, we should look into what is the solution to achieve the the current targets. Okay. And identify the change. How can you deliver what solution? How can you implement the solution what transformation required, that is what we will, and how we will transform, that is what we will discuss in more now. Yeah. Now, what is value? Of course, you have a solution, but will this solution will deliver a value? The worth, value is the worth, the importance, and the usefulness of something to the stakeholder within a context. Okay, in current environment, you have a solution, but is this solution going to deliver value to you? Ultimately, every solution should be aligned to the value. The value could be organization goals, the organization objectives, the organization vision, and the mission. So you need to identify the solution which should deliver value to the organization. It should not happen you have a solution just because people are sitting at home and you don't want to pay them without working, or you just create any solution which may. So it's not that every solution will able to always deliver value, not even in the current situation, but in every situation. If you have a solution, identify what is the value for that particular solution. Which will that solution able to achieve the organization value, organization vision, mission, goals, objective? Don't create a solution just because for because of the current situation, or you realize that you have so much of resources and people are just sitting at home. It's not, it's so you have, if you have a solution, the solution should be focused on value. And we will talk about the various how to measure the value, the and other processes. So remember, there is a need, there's a need which is a problem or an opportunity. For every need, you should identify a solution. Okay, and every solution should be aligned to the organization value. The solution should be for the organization, and to deliver this solution, you need to transform yourself. You need to make changes in the organization, maybe cultural changes, process changes, resource changes, and so many changes. And when you make these changes, when you deliver the solution, then you get the value. So we will discuss this more detail about how a solution deliver value by making changes around the organization and the different aspect of the organization. That is what we will discuss here now. Okay, friends, I will take your question toward the end of the session. So if you have any question, please make a note of such questions, and we're going to discuss your question, and that going to help so many people around here. Yeah. So now we know what is change. Okay, change is an act of transformation in response to a need. Because there is a need, we need to transform. Okay, now what is this change management? Of course we know we need to transform, but how we will transform? What is the management aspect of this particular change? That is what we will discuss now. We'll also discuss the order of change, how should we make changes, the framework of change. This is what we're going to discuss now. So we know what is change. Okay, we know what is the need for the change, we know what is the solution for the change, and we know what is the value the solution will deliver. Okay, by making the changes in the organization. Yeah. So now, change management is a comprehensive and cyclic and structured approach for transitioning individual, group, and organization from a current state to future state with intended business benefit or value. This is what I said. So change management is a very comprehensive, very cyclic, and very structured approach to transform organization from current state to the future state. Okay, what is the current state? So you know what is the current state of your organization. Let's think of the current situation. Because of the lockdown, and if you don't make any changes in your organization, probably the organization will not survive, and all of we will be out of job. So change management is transforming the organization by systematic approach, by transitioning the individual, as I said, the group, and the entire organization from the current state to the future state. Future state means, future state is also called the vision of the organization. It is also called the to be state of the organization. The current state is called the as state. What is the as state of your organization? And if you don't do any change in the as state, then you know what's going to be a problem you and your organization going to face, or your stakeholder going to face. So how change management is the systematic approach, and we will discuss this approach in more detail, how to transform the organization from the current situation to the future situation, which we have already planned before the beginning of the strategic cycle, or before the beginning of the every new calendar year, financial year. Yeah, so we will discuss about this change management, a systematic approach of transitioning the individual, the organization, and the group from the current state to the future state, with intended benefit and value in mind. That because if we want to transition, we need to have what value. Unless we don't deliver a value, we will not able to achieve the future state. So we need to understand what value we need to add to the organization now, to ensure that this value will achieve our vision of the organization. Now let's understand the orders of change. How should you make changes? Should you make changes randomly, whatever comes to your mind, or there have to be some orders to be followed, or some order to be uh, to be defined, in which the changes will be made in the organization? The first order change, if you look into the screen, the procedure and the modification in how work is done. So the first thing what you need to do if you want to make a change, don't change directly the policies or the value. Start making a incremental change. Start making a small change. In the first order, start changing your the procedure or the processes of the way you working. Okay, this changing the processes and procedure will define how you work in your current. Maybe the procedure means earlier you had a procedure to work from office, now you want to work from home. So there is a different processes and the procedure to commit your job to the system, and maybe the different way of doing the collaboration, the different processes you need to follow, and that difficulties is low. So start with the process change, the procedure change, the way you work in the current way. Start making change, and that is a has a length of iterative, or that initiative is very short. It can be very easily, this change can be very easily delivered. And of course you can easily reverse also. See, if you're working from home, if some process and procedure changes, you can easily reverse back to the original condition if it required. So the first order of change, the length of the initiatives are very small. The process and procedure change, they are not very difficult to change. They are very minor changes. The difficulty is very minor, and they can also be reversed. The second order of change is basically the policies changes, the doing something significantly different. Now you're changing the organization policies. Okay, or even you can say the sometimes the cultural change as well. The second order of change, where uh, you go start cultural change, the policies change, where you give more authority, you give more control to the next level line manager. So it is a entire policy level changes which you are making, the cultural changes you are making, which has lots of difficulties. Changing the entire policies, the way you're working since last so many years, this is going to take some time, and you can't reverse from it. Once you have made the cultural changes, you need to, it's sometimes very difficult to make the cultural changes roll back, or the policies to be again roll back to the old policies. Yeah. So first level change is the change the processes and the procedures, then change the policies, and make the attitude and the cultural changes. And the third level change, which are very difficult, are values, the rethinking of the governing values. The governing values also includes, the way you look into your customer, the values you look into your employees, or maybe the way of you do your business. You have to transform uh, the value system itself. Earlier you were doing the delivering the every benefit or every value, the focus was only into the financial aspect. But more than financial aspect, you need to also see, of course the profit making organization wants to deliver more financial returns, but you need to think from the intangible value as well. Your brand recognition, your customer satisfaction, your employee support. This value system has to be changed. The way this is also called business value, the way organization do the business. So that is the last level changes also you have to make. And this is very difficult to for some organization, they only focus on continuously delivering the product and services, and they don't focus too much on the the maybe the customer part of it, or maybe the innovation part of it. So that is again, when you make that changes, uh, that will give you more and more value for the organization. And this is a small step, this is a different category of changes which will, if you follow, it will make the organization more robust, more your stakeholder friendly, your employee friendly, your customer friendly, and where you have policies, adopting very policies, processes, your values. So this is the way you make changes into the organization. Don't start with the third order first. Don't make changes directly with it. So start with the small process and policy changes, then start going into the process changes, procedure changes, start changing your policies, and then think of the the governing value, how the organization governs the various projects, program, and the ongoing operations, and so on. Now let's talk about the framework of how we will implement the change in an organization. Whatever change you're making, the framework of this particular change, let us understand that. Okay. Now this is your current state of your organization. Current state means your edges state. This is where you operate currently. And forget this current COVID situation. Imagine that everything was normal, just like in the month of January or February. But even in that situation, you need to identify what changes you need to make. And I have realized many organizations who are really at the top, who are really successful, they don't realize the need of transformation, the need of change. They feel, oh, they are already into leadership position, they are the market leader, and they ignore the change, they ignore the transformation. And there are many such examples which you may be aware. Let's take an example of Nokia. What happened with Nokia? They were the market leader in the mobile phone product. Maybe more than 70-80% of the market is of Nokia mobile phones. And they were really successful, the market share, but they ignored the transformation. And that is one of the barrier. We'll discuss one of the barrier for organization not able to sustain. And it doesn't matter what is your current position. Even if you feel you are the best consulting company or best manufacturing company or whatsoever, you have to keep identifying the changes and you need to act on those changes. Otherwise, the entire what happened to Kodak was the camera. They have not taken the transformation seriously, and today nobody knows what is Kodak, which was one of the biggest the camera company, or maybe like that. We could see Canon was also into camera. They have done transformation. They went into the other print solution. So still we have multiple Canon printers, Canon other products and services. But Kodak was nowhere now. Nobody have even remembered that term or that name. What are we saying? That in current state, whatever state you are, you can't ignore the transformation. You can't ignore the change. So you have to formulate the change, identify and clarify the need for change. That because every change has a need. Either there's a problem or there's an opportunity. Need is a problem and an opportunity. And you need to identify what is the opportunity you have or the problem you may have currently or you may occur in future. So formulate the change. That's the first stage. Identifying the change, assessing the readiness for change. Then are we ready for that change? Is your management, your leadership team capable of identifying and assessing the change? Delineate the scope of change, that define the scope of change, that if we have a problem, then what solution will fix this problem and how this solution will able to deliver value to us, and how we will make this solution by making changes in the organization. It could be just a process and process changes, policies changes, or the entire value system changes. Yeah. After you have identified the scope of change or the need for change, then you have to plan the change, because change management is not that easy. You can't make changes without having a proper approach for it. Without So define the approach for the change. You have to engage with your stakeholder. You can't make changes without involving your stakeholder. That's the biggest problem, that we want to make changes and we don't engage with our stakeholder, who could be your vendors, who could be your team, who could be your employee, who could be your customers, and you making changes without considering and without collaborating with your stakeholders. And that is what, again, one of the barrier of you making change with people. Yeah, we will discuss this concept of making change with people, not to people. Most of the time what happens, we're making changes to the people or to the stakeholder. We are not making changes with them. So this is one of the most important barrier which we will discuss. And you need to plan this collaboration, this engagement, and the transition and integration, that how, when you deliver a product or a services which is a solution, how that will be transitioned, how that will be implemented, and so on. Then once you have a plan in place, then start implementing the changes. Prepare organization for change. Now, how to prepare organization for change, that is also we discuss. You need to have change management tools. You need to have change management, the board, change management board. You need to have change management culture, the change management training. Well, this is the critical success factor. Just identifying a change will not enough. You need to prepare the organization for change. You know you have to change the processes. You know you have to change the values. But how? You have to prepare your organization for that value change, the cultural change. Mobilize your stakeholder, involve your stakeholder, because you can't make changes without involving your stakeholder support for that particular change. Yeah. So implement the change, deliver that particular project output. This project output could be a product or a service or could be any result. During the implementation phase, you will have a product or a service, and you have to transition that to an operations, transition output into businesses. Measure adaptation rate, that whether this the customers or the operations is adapting to the new change or not. This is another barrier. Many times we have technology, many times we have a solution, but the adaptability to a solution, the adaptability to a technology is a barrier to change. The organization already has a solution, but the stakeholder support for the solution is not there. That's again a big barrier for a change. And you need to make that, you need to make organization readiness for every change. It's not, definitely not enough to identify what changes you need to make or what solution the change will bring, but you will not get value unless the adaptability toward the solution doesn't happen. Because value, you will get business value only in the operation stage. Project and program are just a mechanism to deliver change, but unless this project will deliver a product and service, unless it is not utilized into the operations, you will not get the value, the business value. So you have to manage that transition successfully. You need to ensure your customers or your operations understand what value we're going to achieve from this particular change or from this particular new solution. So that transition, you have to manage that transition and then sustain the change, the ongoing realization of the change. After you have able to train them, after you are able to share your vision, that how this organization vision will be achieved through the change, you need to ensure work with the operations team to conduct a sense making activities, to measure benefit realization, ongoing benefit realization. This is all you have to do as part of sustaining the change. So the life cycle is formulate a change, plan a change, implement a change, transition, manage transition of that particular change to the customer or to the operations, and sustain the change. Of course, in today's webinar, we can't go much detail about how to sustain and how to conduct the sense making activities. But this will give you a framework, and you need to go more deep dive to ensure that that your change add value to your organization. It transform your organization from current state to the future state, from as is state to the to be state. That is what is change management is all about. The transformation of the organization, the transformation of the people or a group. And this is what value you realize, then only your future state will be achieved. Let's talk about, I hope the framework, the high level framework was clear. Let's understand the critical success factor for change management. What are the factors you need to consider which are very critical for change management in your organization, without which, even you, if you have identified a very good solution, or you have identified an opportunity or a problem which is a need, you also know this, the transformation processes, procedures, but important is, without this key success factor or critical success factor, you will have lots of difficulties in that transformation to a future state, to the organization vision. The first critical success factor is stakeholder collaboration, empowerment, and engagement. This factor many people, many organizations, even senior leadership ignores. They feel, oh, we know this is opportunity exists or this problem exists. They have also identified a solution. They have also identified a change that will bring the solution. Maybe it's a process change, procedure change, policy change, value change. They may have a change, but many a time they forget the stakeholder engagement, the stakeholder empowerment. They don't empower stakeholders. They don't collaborate. They don't engage with the stakeholder. And that is why many organizations fail to deliver the change. And the organization who not only identify the change and the solution the change will bring, who involve the stakeholder, only those organizations able to deliver the value and able to achieve the future state of an organization. As I said, perform changes with rather than to people. Don't make changes to the people. Don't change people from one location to other location, or maybe role change, or maybe the designation change, or maybe the rather than involve the people. Of course, sometimes it is necessary to make such changes also, but what I'm trying to tell you, involve the people in making the change, rather than, don't ask the people to make the, okay, this is the change we have done, start using the change, or this change will, this is what the resistance comes, because you don't make the changes with them. You just inform that this is the change, and you want their support for that particular change without involving them, without collaborating with them. That's the biggest barrier also, and you can call this is the biggest success factor as well. And ensure alignment, system alignment. Now change, to make a change you need to look into the entire system. Let's take an example. Consider you're making a change into a software, you're bringing a new software. Many people say, I'm doing cloud migration because my current the servers or the data centers, they are not scalable, or they are not delivering value to the organization, and they want to do cloud migration. They want to adopt the cloud solution. Of course, cloud solution is very good, but you need to understand the entire system of this transformation. Only just identifying that, the solution, that cloud migration, ensure all supporting system work effectively and efficiently together. If you're making any software change, ensure that people also change. Because suppose you're going away from Microsoft SQL to Oracle database, so you need to even hire the database who can administer the Oracle database. So it is not only just the software change, you also have to make the people change, and the various, maybe even the controls, different controls needs to be changed. So change is an entire system. You can't make change in one part of the organization without identifying impact to the other aspect of that particular change. Yeah. So ensure you align the entire system with the change initiative. Either you're changing a software, or either you're changing a process, how the process change has impact to the people part. That is also very, very important. Yeah? Provide focus for the change initiative. Now this focus basically means you need to have a strong sponsorship for the change initiative. Sponsorship basically means a leader who should ensure, who should educate the the senior management, the junior management, the stakeholders, and everybody, who should have confidence on that particular change, to the leadership, and the very clear description of the change, that how we will achieve the future state. And this person should be, who should who should be leader for the change, who should ensure that. And if this leader could be the CEO of the organization, then it makes lots of sense. Most of the time the vision of the organization is defined by the CEO. The strategy is defined by the CEO. And if your CEO is the if the change focus is from the CEO level, it becomes very easy. That's a very critical success factor, that whosoever is the leader, the focus for the change should be very strong. Should be very strong leader. He should not get under pressure that we don't need change. And this is what happening many times. We want to implement a new way of working, even the agile implementation, but the person who wants to make the transformation, his strong capability to transform, that is that is what is lacking. Okay, so focus is very important, one critical success factor. Another thing is, you identify, select, and develop your talent base on the change management competencies. That means when you interview some new person in your organization, or even your existing employees, you have to develop your employees from a change mindset. They should understand that change is unavoidable. They should understand the process of change. They should be able to understand the vision the change will bring. So change, you have to build a change management training. This will come over a period of time. There have to be, organization needs to define that what are the change management competency program. And that is why, the strong leadership, the strong focus is very important. So develop your employee, develop your talent based on the change management competencies. Of course, there's so many. We'll talk about more about the competencies, what kind of changes we are making, what are the various training curriculum for changing the organization, changing the people, capture and shared lesson learned, that will, from some of the past changes, to buy in the stakeholder support, and so on. Formalize the philosophy and policy for change management, or of change management. Everybody should understand a common vocabulary. Everybody should understand the same vision for change. Then why are we making change, or what is the need for change? And that's a critical success factor. You need to have a policy for change management. Define your policy for change management, that every change have to be very, very formal, have to be documented, have to be analyzed, have to be approved, have to be the respective assessment, impact assessment of change to the various aspect of the organization needs to be made, and so on. To define the philosophy of change management. And this is sounds very high level, but of course this is the very critical success factor, that everybody should understand the same jargons for every change, the vocabulary for the change. Change management tool, develop and deploy the tools and the processes. And these tools, which we also call PMIS, Project Management Information System, or Program Management Information System, they're very important. If you're working in a software people, you may have worked many change management tool, VSS, Microsoft Visual Source. Somebody who worked in Java may have used SVN, maybe Star Team. I have used so many other change management tool, how to change the processes, how even configuration management tool. So these are the critical success factor, because archiving the change, the processes, defining the tools play very important role to recording the change and ensuring that the latest version of the change is being in effect. These are very critical success factor. Of course, you may be using many other change management tools. Let's quickly discuss about in next couple of minutes what is the potential barrier for change and the change derailers. What derails our change in our organization? Lack of good sponsorship. That means the support for change, the sponsor for change, that is what is lacking. People just making changes just because the other organization is doing. So the good sponsor should convince that the change is important for the organization, and he should ensure whatever problem we face, we should able to overcome that particular change. So that's a good sponsor for the change is very important. Identifying the sponsor is very important. Cultural resistance for change. But this is again many time organization are making the changes, but when the results are not very good, the rolling back to the original way of working, because the cultural change is still a problem. They don't realize that sometimes the change will take a time, but sometimes failing fast is the only option, and over a period of time which we may able to deliver a better way of working, a very strong organization. So you have to change the cultural changes in the organization, including the leadership style. Rather than command and control, the forcing, we should adopt the servant leadership style, and that's a big cultural shift. People still wants to do micromanagement. People don't want to trust their employee. Culture is trust. Culture is transparency. People don't want to be transparent with their employee, with their stakeholder, with their customer. That is a cultural change, and that is the barrier also. I also discussed failure to build change readiness. Many times, you know, the lack of recognition for the need of continuous change, that is what is a big problem. We do not realize, sometimes we keep using the old system because we feel that the old system are giving us value, and we only make changes when the system completely become unusable. Or sometimes it also happen we adapt changes too very fast when still the technology could, let's say, technology change. So you need to understand, you need to make your organization ready, then what is the right time, or what how to make that particular changes. Prolonging the change is also a problem. I told you what happened with Nokia and the Kodak example. They keep using the old Symbian. Nokia has their own operating system called Symbian, or their own technology. They didn't adapt it to the to the Android, or maybe to the other Windows operating. Of course, Windows later on they went into Windows, and now they are also coming into the Android. But that it's too very late now. They didn't. It's a they failed to build the change readiness. They didn't changes. They didn't recognize that it is the time to change, and nobody focus on that change readiness. They kept using the old system, the old, and this happens in many of the organizations. We just don't want to get away from the old systems, the old processes, the old culture. We don't adopt the the new leadership style, the new cultural need. Because the world is very volatile, the world is very uncertain, it is a complex world, and there is so much of ambiguity. It is a VUCA world. And if today's VUCA world, if you fail to understand there is a need for change, then you know what will happen to you and to your organization. Sometimes insufficient time allocated to change. We want results too very quickly. We don't give time to, that is again big barrier. I have seen many organizations who goes for agile adaptation, but when they don't get result, they again go to the traditional way of working. Okay, so they want the results so very quick that they fail that they fail to understand that we have to allocate time for the change. The results, and in fact, you will get better results if you make give proper time for the changes and so on. And that is why you should have good sponsorship also. He need to have trust, also resistance, cultural change. He should ensure that he should trust your methodologies, your framework, your his employees and so on, and proper time should be allocated. Poor vision of the future. Many a time we do not have a vision itself. Forget about the poor vision. And if you don't have a vision, how do you think that you will able to create a solution which will deliver a value and which will able to achieve the vision? Many times the sponsor or the CEO has a very poor vision, and that is the biggest barrier of change. And even if we have a vision, we do not align the vision with the stakeholders. The stakeholders completely don't know what they're doing. They have just limited scope of work in the organization. They are not aligned to the vision of the organization, even if there is a vision. And many times the biggest barrier is we have not defined our vision, that what we want to achieve in the future. Vision is the future state of the organization, and unless you don't know what you want to be in future, how will you identify a solution or a goals and objective which will be delivered by a solution? That is what is the problem. The vision is a problem. Poor access to technology by all stakeholders. Again, it's not that the technology doesn't exist. The technology is there, but it is not accessible. And I also said some time back, there's new technology available, but we don't want to transform to the new technology. That's a big problem now. People don't want to invest into the new technology. They face that, or they find that it is a cost to the organization. It's not a cost. It will deliver benefit to them if they adapt to a new technology, because it may be a customer need. So poor access to technology, people has the technology, people don't want to adapt to the technology, people want to continue the way of doing, the older way of the older system, the older technology, and so on. That's again the barrier. Poor measure and measurement processes. We have, we don't know how to measure the current state, that what is the current state of the organization. We don't know what is, how to measure the future state. How will we say the future state is achieved? We don't have this measures, and measurement is also called matrix. We don't know what is the current state of the organization, what is the current value, what is the future value, and whether the future value is achieved or not. That's again a problem in organization. There are these barriers because we have not defined measures. If we're making changes, we don't know whether the change is successful because we do not have the proper measurement process to to see whether the change has actually delivered the value or not. The last slide for the day, I'm sorry for extending a bit. Quickly, I would like to talk about program versus project change scope. Now, project change is about how part, because project will deliver product or service. The product or service is a solution, and that solution will bring value when the product or services is transitioned to the operations. Then only it will deliver the value. So project management is all about how to make changes, or it is all about how part of that particular changes, that whatever solution, product, or services we are delivering, how to deliver that product or solution within the original specification. It's about change in the uh, you know the project management processes, or the change in the project management tools, or maybe change in the project, adding the new requirements and something like that. So project management change is basically about how we going to deliver that particular product or service. Whereas program management is all about why part. Why are we making changes to a product which will be delivered by a project? Because program is all about delivering benefits. So program management is about, if we have to change any configuration related change to a product and service, and why we have to change the configuration of the product and or a service, that have to be through a program management change, a program management scope. Because we only going to change the product scope, or the service scope, if it going to optimize the benefit. So the reason is why. If the why part is about if it delivering more benefit and more value, then the program manager can make changes to the scope of a product. So product scope is about the any changes to the product scope will be enforced or will be recommended by the program manager. And project scope means how part, how that the product scope will be delivered, what changes we need to make into the project so that we able to deliver the product or services. That how part will be called a project change, and why we making changes to the product and service will be the program change. Of course, there are many more aspects of that program and project change, but due to the lack of time, we can't cover more. I would also like to highlight some of the references which I took for this particular webinar. There's a PMI publication called Managing Change in Organization. How to make changes in the organization. There's a practice guide. If you are a PMI member, I strictly recommend PMI has so many good standards, configuration management standard, WVS, and so on. Please, if you have time, do refer these standards to not only the change management, but many other global standards which PMI has published, not for the certification purpose, but uh, for adding more value to your organization and to your personal future as well. The second reference I used is the BA BOK guide, okay, the business analysis body of knowledge. That's from IIBA, International Institute for Business Analysis. So some of the concept of I have picked up from this particular guide as well. So thank you all. Thank you for listening to me. Now I will open the session for question. If anybody has a question, I'll love to hear from all of you here. Anybody? I hope you enjoyed today's webinar and you like the particular session and all.
Hi, good afternoon.
They can definitely leave. Yeah. Go ahead,
Hi,
please.
good afternoon, Kailash. My name is Mukesh. I'm calling from Canada.
Go ahead, Mr. Mukesh.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for presenting this change management webinar. And I think this is right on time. You have presented this webinar, and it's very useful, not only for professional career, but also for personal life, because this is the one thing, the change is happening, and you have provided very deep knowledge about that. So thank you very much, and it was really very useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mukesh, for your feedback. Really appreciate that you spent early morning of your Saturday, maybe here in Canada, for this webinar. Really thankful that for your feedback, and we can work together on more on this change. Because what I presented today is just the capsule part, just a high level framework part of the change management. Each of these factors can further be evaluated and all those things. So thanks for that. Anybody else, friends? Anybody other feedback or any question you have? Thank you, Rohit, for your feedback. Also via the chat message that it was you understood this session, it helped you. Anybody else? Any other question? Any other feedback you have for this from this webinar and all?
We would like to have more such webinars, Kailash.
May I know who is this, first of all?
Is Anand here, Kailash?
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Yeah, we will be going to conduct many more webinars. So thank you. I hope, Mr. Anand, you like this particular webinar, and definitely we will post you about our upcoming webinar as well.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I'm Mukesh from Canada.
Yes, Mr. Mukesh.
I think this is a very fantastic webinar, and this webinar is for 1 hour. So do you think that we are also going to get some PDUs?
Absolutely, you can get one PDUs for attending this webinar. For every 1 hour of learning, you can have one PDU. So you can claim the PDUs from the PMI website because you are the attendees for this particular webinar.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Anything from Manoj? I could see Manoj Pal is here. Manoj, I hope you like the webinar. Any questions or any feedback from you, Mr. Manoj?
Yes, I like the webinar. No question from my end, but thank you for the presentation and thank you for the knowledge sharing.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj. Thank you for being here, and thanks for your feedback. And okay, Achintya, do you want to say something?
No, okay. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Achintya, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have no such that type of question, but it's okay. It is good. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
for.
Mr. Achintia. Thank you very much.
This is the right time. This is also the VUCA environment in this time actually. VUCA environment is every time, but this is the actual VUCA environment. It is our already, I think Mr. Mukesh has told in our personal life also. So thank you for this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, all. Hey, Sampanna, you are from Singapore. You want to say something?
Kailash, I just want to ask you some about, you mentioned a very good point about organizations, they get late in rolling back a change. Not all the time we take corrective action goes in the favor. So I know, does any of the standards or, how to go about the rollback on any change that we have adopted? I would like to know a little more on.
Yes, yes. So of course, if you could refer Sampanna this organization change in the this framework which I told you some time back, which is published by PMI, managing changes in the organization. There are some steps given. Of course, this doesn't talk about how to roll back the changes, which changes are irreversible. It talks about some of the changes, but that doesn't talk much detail. But Sampanna, we can work offline and we can discuss what kind of changes which we have made. Why are we making rollback? Can we give some more time to that particular change to see the value from the change? And if we can't give more time, then what are the processes for rolling back to the changes? Will this PMIS will help in because in that the change management tool is very important, because that will tell you what perspective of changes you have made. So there are various factors for even reversing the change, and whether the change is reversible, we can discuss more detail about it. Of course, this need lots of brainstorming. It's not easy making reversing the change, Mr. Sampanna, but I hope there have been we'll able to work toward. If we realize that the change is not delivering value, then definitely we can work on that. Yeah, Sampanna?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Mukesh,
think because most of us are skeptical of the changes only because we are afraid of making mistakes. So if we can get some comfort, having a good rollback procedure just in case, I think that would bring in more confidence for the change.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you need to you need to this is all called preparing the organization for change. And if you tell them that there is a procedure to even roll back the change, the organization will be more confident in implementing the change. So you can't just say that we making the change and there is no the way to come back. So that is why those kind of changes are very difficult, and that's time consuming, and the sponsorship for that change is very difficult. So, and without involving the organization stakeholder, the change is seriously very difficult. Yeah,
yeah, Kailash, Achinta this side.
go ahead, Mr. Achintya.
Yeah, I am telling ki in this is you are telling the VUCA framework actually, this change management. So can you also these things about this ADKAR framework for this change management also?
Definitely, Achintya, we can definitely have another webinar. That different, change. As I said, it's not only about the current VUCA factor. There are many changes happen.
Change model, this ADKAR also, that's I am telling ADKAR model, which is the awareness that
So probably I may Achintya, probably I may not have too much information, but definitely thank you for highlighting that. It's a very good input for me to learn, and and if I feel that I am competent enough to talk about that particular subject, then I will love to talk about it, Mr. Achintya. So thank you for
Thank you.
letting me know about this framework as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, friends. Stay blessed, stay home, take care of family, and hope to connect you again very soon in one of the session. Thank you very much. Take care all.
Thank you.